It is about that time. It's Monday morning, April 8th, and this is EOS Town Hall. We're gathering up weekly people here that are helping drive this EOS network. Today, we decided to bring in a couple of the past winners from the EOS Hackathon. Have a little discussion about that. We'll do a little catch up. So thank you everybody for joining here today. This is kind of a quiet week. Kedar and I were talking. Not much has been necessarily released other than Rex, which we might cover next week. But with us here today are both Eli and Danielle from EOS.VC, the All EBT Project, and Chesnut.
Patricia and Danielle from Chesnut.
Patricia and Danielle from Chesnut. Thank you guys for all joining us. That's, you know, maybe we'll start off with some Chesnut news. Daniel, Patricia, Danielle, not sure how you guys want to kick it off, but give us a little bit about your project, your experience with the hackathon, and what Chesnut has in store.
All right. Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. So yeah, Team Chesnut, if you're not familiar with it, we are a smart account system where users can essentially set their own rules and restrictions on the type, size, and frequency of transactions that are on their account. And really trying to make the experience of using the EOS blockchain safer, reduce the number of mistakes that people make themselves, and this fear around malicious dApps, reduce the risks of that. So that's essentially what we're aiming to do. We came in second place in the London hackathon, and then that qualified us to participate in the South Africa Cape Town finals, which was pretty exciting. And we continued to work on the project after London, preparing for the finals. During the grand finale, it was typical Block One fashion. It was big production value. It was very exciting. They had a lot of really interesting speakers. We could talk about that if you guys are interested. And it was sort of structured as like a little mini incubator, like a Y Combinator week, that sort of thing, going over the basics of what it's like to start a startup, a lot of the business aspects of these projects, whereas at the smaller hackathons, like in London, it was very focused on the hacking, and there were a lot of speakers and sessions about the more technical aspects of creating an EOS project. Here was more focused on business. We got to talk to a lot of the big names in Block One, in EOS, and had speakers from a diverse set of business backgrounds. We didn't win there. The winners were doing DNA on the blockchain, which is pretty cool, but it was still a fantastic experience, and it has helped to jettison us into a very legit project where we're working on our smart contract system at the moment. Kedar actually has taken a look at our smart contracts, so we're starting to shop them around. We have a Jack DeSalvatore, who's a super legit smart contract dev on the team, who we actually picked up between London and South Africa. So we're super excited that he's part of the team. And, we're planning on launching in the summer at some point, and things are going well. We're getting a lot of support from the community, which has been exciting. I think part of what happened for us was because of the hackathon series, gave us some publicity and gave us some name recognition, connected us with people in the space that are helpful and that are really excited about us coming to market with this thing and providing it for the ecosystem. So it was a great series. Definitely, it was an invaluable experience, both from learning and connections. Really excited to have done that, and we're excited for the future.
Sounds good. Tell us about some of the features. I remember during the London hackathon when you guys presented, fantastic project, great. Your UX was on point. Really spot on UX. And is it really about the usability for end users? With all the benefits that the EOS chain can provide, as you're really rolling now 9 months into this chain. Some of the features that people have been wanting or worried about that weren't, say, innately launched with the chain, as far as safety of your accounts, are what you guys focused on. So if you would explain a little bit about what Chesnut hopes to be as far as so as far as what features will provide for the users with regard to their safety of their accounts.
Yeah, so that's a great point. And you actually just brought up something that I totally glossed over, which is that we also won Best User Experience in London. And so one of our core ethos is really around usability and trying to bridge this gap between what users want and what they're used to in the modern web and what currently exists in many blockchain projects and sort of in the blockchain ecosystem in general. And so bringing that usability, making it easy, making it feel safe. Some of the specific things that we're doing are transaction limits. So the amount of EOS that can be sent at any one time or over a period of time. So kind of like with, if you think of how your ATM sort of does this right now, you can only take out in US, often $200 per transaction. This is trying to, this is an attempt by the banks to limit their exposure to somebody fraudulently taking out money. In the blockchain world and in EOS land, you don't really have that kind of protection, right? And so if somebody does something malicious or adapted something malicious, then you really have no protections, and there's really no way to set those kinds of protections for yourself and to be your own security parameters. So it's transaction limits, it's whitelisting and blacklisting of dApps and other accounts, and things like this that that really give the power and the experience back to the users. Yeah.
And just to add on something really quickly onto the end of what Dan just added is we're also looking to add account recovery in as our feature list as well.
And that's just the beginning of these kinds of things. There's a lot of additional features and functionalities that we're planning on adding in the future.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. Like, not everything has been built innately into any chain, and it's been up to this open source community to provide a lot of the features and functionalities that we all hope will be there. So I think the hackathon really itself exposed a world to the rest of the people trying to build, and I think that through that experience, a lot of people got to really get to know each other. And aside from London, and it sounds like you guys went to South Africa. Did you guys go to any of the other events? Did you guys was this your first hand out at London, or had you tried somewhere else?
Yeah, so Danielle and I actually went to Hong Kong as well, which is where we met Kedar and the Everpedia team for the first time. And we built a data marketplace there, but didn't, we weren't finalists. We did actually build a fully functioning smart contract. And so that was kind of exciting, especially early on. Not many of the teams, even teams that did very well there didn't have fully functioning smart contracts. One of the interesting things with the hackathon series is that through in Hong Kong, that was the first one, and it was actually when EOS launched. We had like a big yay EOS launch during the hackathon itself, but because it was very early on, none of the templates and a lot of the tooling wasn't there yet, so the requirements were very low. By the time we got to London, it was required that you had a fully functioning smart contract integrated, and then we actually went as I guess observers to San Francisco, which was the last one. Where I think we actually met you as well there, Tim. But there
I was in London as well, Daniel. I was in London.
Oh yeah. I don't know that we met in London. Maybe we did though. Yeah. Okay. But we met in San Francisco, and there the requirements were even stricter and even grander. And by the time we got to the grand finale, it was not only do you need a smart contract fully functioning, but you should have this whole project really built out.
So it evolved, just like kind of the chains evolve, and we're getting better tools. 9 months in, what would you say as in the development of this platform thus far? In your you've been around since the chain was launched, and you guys have been working on projects since then. It's gotten substantially easier, but when we're getting more of the templates, there's a lot more people that are coming across now as we have some more. You wouldn't call them veteran developers on the smart contract platform yet, but a lot more senior guys. You guys are getting a lot more attention, guys and girls. A lot more, the understanding of the platform. What pitfalls or issues have you noticed that are still there that you'd like to see as a developer? That you'd hope ultimately are provided over this next couple of months next year as you really start getting rolling out?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one thing that we have seen a massive change in is one you mentioned is templates and tooling. So, I think those are finally in a pretty good spot, and enable people to really rapidly build things and not start from scratch every time. And the other is that early on when we were seeking advice and looking for help auditing our smart contracts and that sort of stuff, there weren't, and you sort of, alluded to this, there weren't really many people that considered themselves an expert in it and that had the confidence, I guess, to give that kind of guidance. And, in general, there's not like a turnkey way of getting that kind of guidance right now. So, one thing I would hope for the future, and we're starting to definitely see more and more of this, is more of community auditing and helping each other with actually building out your smart contract systems. I think we are in a privileged position where we have friends in the space and we're able to get a lot of that guidance. But if we didn't have that and we were just completely starting out new, I don't know exactly how you would go about getting the information, getting the guidance, getting those kinds of connections. I think creating maybe a little bit more infrastructure for making sure that people just coming into EOS are able to accelerate and build out modern smart contracts in the space. I think that would be a helpful thing. And I think we are seeing some movement towards that, but the more we can do that, the better.
One thing that always gets asked about to me, I'm sure to you, Kedar, too, is what is going on with the EOS.VC fund? How do people get connected? How do people get funded? It's not an easy answer. But in your experience, what help might have you been given, and then what else would you like to see? Right now, Block One has bestowed 3 to 4 groups upon being able to try to help out some of the projects on the platform. Has it been easy for you to get in contact with anyone? Have you had any issues? Have you been talking to people? What's been your experience so far, Daniel?
Yeah, I think around EOS.VC, we actually haven't talked to them specifically. We talked to them during the hackathon series, but we haven't gone and tried to raise capital really yet. I think that's going to change soon because we will actually need capital to do the launch and to do a smart contract audit. Or I would say we may want capital at that point. I think in terms of reaching out to people in the actual community and other devs, Telegram is incredibly valuable for that. And anybody not on Telegram should be if they're trying to get in touch with people. And typically you can get very quick responses, even from high-ranking Block One people on Telegram. So I've been incredibly impressed with the community around that. Twitter also can be helpful that way. But if you're looking for specific advice, I think there are people that have built these kinds of smart contracts or whatever you're trying to build. You're not the first one ever building something even remotely like that. And so finding the people that have built something like that and then sending them a direct message on Telegram, people are incredibly responsive to that. Particularly if you're working on something that is interesting or that you're actually passionate about. I think we've found that it's pretty easy to get responses. And I think one of the other benefits that we have right now is that we're in a little bit of a bear market, notwithstanding that little bump that we just had. But as a result, I think that the community has gotten small and kind of intimate, and people want to be helpful. So I think the community, EOS, you have a similar kind of thing in EOS. Did I lose you guys for a sec? My internet's a little spotty.
Yeah, you're all good.
Okay. So yeah, I think the community in EOS is great. You can reach out to people specifically. They're there to be helpful. The BP, the structure of the BP system actually makes it so that BPs really are economically incentivized to be helpful as well. And a lot of the smartest minds are in the BP, are at the BP company. So those guys really, and you guys really know what you're talking about. And I think we've found that to be incredibly helpful as well.
Shout out to Kedar Iyer for his service and helping with LibertyBlock. If you are a developer and you have questions, please feel free to reach out. we are here to help. You know, it is interesting on the EOS.VC side. I do hope that they are able to try to take some more bets on the seed and angel side of organizations. You know, I think that that's what is so important. The community of developers obviously here is thriving. I mean, this bear market, that's what makes bear markets fun. This is, I think, my 13th bear market in this space. So, you know, it becomes more fun. Like, people come out and the actual builders come out to play, and you know, it's been a lot of fun building through this. You know, we being that I run an asset management company, I believe that we have some insight into this, the cycles of these markets, and you know, we are really excited. This little blip might be more than just a little blip. You know, the fundamentals of all the ecosystem are thriving right now. People are starting to understand the technology, and things are starting to really get built. I mean, you look at the development, I think, that's going on specifically within the EOS community, and how strong that is. The tools are showing themselves. People are starting to build things now. Hopefully, people will be able to build projects of value that create revenue, and people can continue to experiment. Speaking of people experimenting, my man Eli, all EBT, super excited about the platform that you've brought up, that you've created. Why don't you tell people a little bit about all EBT, where you got started, and your journey through the EOS Hackathons?
Yeah, so let's see here. So how far back do you want me to go? Do you want me to go back like where?
Bring it back to grade school, bro. I mean, where you trying to bring the people at? Go for it.
Yeah, you know, so I worked in tech for a bunch of years. I was at a startup. It was actually a UCLA startup. So it was a company called AdMob, and you know, AdMob was an early mobile ad network, and I got really lucky. You know, I joined that company, was just a little guy on a team, and next thing you know, they got bought by Google. And I worked in tech for 6, 7, 8 years, Google, Amazon. We were doing a bunch of speech recognition, image recognition, all these, you know, pretty advanced technologies. And I really realized that, hey, you know, all this technology is not helping my community in LA. This is not helping, you know, where I grew up, the Hispanic low income community where people are just struggling to shop. And that's where the idea for all EBT food stamps was born. It was basically born out of just looking around and seeing how, hey, I want technology to impact my community. So you guys already know the problem. It's a huge problem. These food stamps, you know, there's $128 billion on food stamps, 22% of the US population, and they can't shop online. So all of these all the digital economy, all the apps that have ever been created don't work for this huge segment of the population. And that's when we said, me as a person and as a team, like, wow, this is ridiculous. We need to fix this solution. So that's the birth of all EBT as a company. And then jumping forward, we won a couple of these hackathons. So we were at the Y Combinator hackathon, and we were one of the winners. So we're like, wow, this is pretty awesome. And then right after that, 2 weeks later, we go to San Francisco, and the technical team is actually from Puerto Rico. So we have my co-founder, he's from Puerto Rico, and then some of the developers are also there. So we, you know, went to San Francisco, and next thing you know, we were in the back of my mind, I had always been following, you know, a lot of the people in the space, especially the Everpedia team. So shout out, you know, I was a WeFunder, like early days, like WeFunder, you know, it's ridiculous.
I got in like pre-blockchain.
Yeah, that's like early. So I had my eyes on the goal, and I was like, all right, what's going on here? What's going on here? So I was just observing, and I said, and when I saw, you know, the EOS Hackathon, I said, you know what? This is a chance. This is going to force us to build something that we wouldn't necessarily build right now. And we went for it. And that's when we won the Social Impact Award, and we got on stage, and it was a great experience. jumping into, I guess, another topic. Let's talk about the hackathon, right? Hackathon San Francisco.
Cape Town.
Say again?
Let's hear about Cape Town. I know you have a lot of opinions on it.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think I've been around the block and I've seen tech, and we all have. And to give an opposite viewpoint of Cape Town, I was kind of like, to put a big picture, it was life-changing. That's like the biggest thing I could say. It was really life-changing. It was life-changing for a lot of good reasons, a lot of bad reasons. It was life-changing because it was Africa. Like, they literally put us on a plane and sent us to Africa, which is ridiculous, there was like great people that went to Africa, like, I don't know, Martin Luther King, like Muhammad Ali, like, Fidel Castro, getting on these planes, they go to Africa. So here I am, I'm thinking in back of my head, wow, this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. I'm gonna go to Africa. And, Africa didn't disappoint. And we got there, and Block One, they did a great job. Shout out, they took care of us, and they, they made sure everybody was safe and happy and well fed. But, one of the things that was interesting is that, like, that group of people that we had there, these were 19 teams, the best in EOS around the planet. And they treated us like kids. And that's a bad thing. They treated us like, they didn't push us to our potential. That's what I felt. And that was a little bit disappointing, because there was a big disconnect between what Block One was doing and then what the team that they hired to execute the hackathon was tasked with doing. So they had another, I guess it was I think it was DevPost or some other hackathon organization doing like logistics. And there was this disconnect. There was this clear disconnect in my mind, like, all right, what's going on between these guys and these guys? And that was a little bit frustrating. And halfway through the hackathon, Block One like really realized, hey, you know what? We have all these people here. And besides taking pictures and video of them, we should probably engage them in a more, deep or philosophical way. And that was I'm sure they learned just as much as we did as all the developers there on the ground.
I will say, this series of hackathons, I'm not sure if anyone from Block One is listening to this. Hopefully they are. Series of hackathons was great. Probably a big, massive push and a great way to get people in different communities to understand and know about the chain. But I personally would have rather seen a number of smaller events. As this evolves, as this moves into what it could be next year. I would personally rather see 20 cities or 30 cities on a smaller side activating local communities to being able to run incentivized hackathons to get more people out. I mean, it was massive. Everywhere you went was massive, and you could tell that they spent a lot of money on doing it. And the largest events though had maybe 500 people. That was the largest of the events all weekend long. I'd much rather see 20 or 30 of these things in a smaller capacity, the 100, the 200, people at these events and kind of more localized, and then bring them together for something larger at the end. I know the experience out there, sounds like it was life-changing out in Africa. I'd imagine that's a beautiful place to run an event, and this is a world product, but ultimately, trying to see if we can activate more people on the smaller side is something I'd like to see. Maybe that'll come next year. Hopefully they continue it. Whatever it was, I believe was a success as far as the view of the chain goes in the world. People were able to see some things. Being out in San Francisco specifically, I mean, that is the heart of the Ethereum nation, at least one of them. getting people out to understand that there were people excited about another chain, I think is important. So I think it was great, but we loved it. Hopefully Block One will throw another series of events next year. They can tone it down on the showmanship and raise up the number of events. I think that'd be great. We are thankful that they did that, but I'd also like to see a lot of the VC money come in early on these angel rounds of projects. So if we didn't have the ability to have someone like Eli out there, we probably wouldn't know about all EBT today. Eli, why don't you explain a little bit about where you guys are now and when we can hope to see some of these, your platform specifically, come online and people start using it?
Yeah, so just closing up on the hackathon, I think, we're all in crypto and we have the potential to do so much. And going to Africa, I sent some of the pictures to the group. There was this big, top to bottom, and my agenda is always to go see the bottom. So I was lucky enough, like all of the, the servers, the waiters, the janitors that were basically feeding us at the hackathon. Day one, I make friends, right? And then day two, we get to know each other. Day three, they start inviting me to like their home and day 4 or 5, I end up going to their like township. And really the point I'm trying to make is, the reason why we're building this stuff, and not just my project, but everybody's project, is to help those, 4 billion people. And I know you guys are already believers on this, but I think it's, if they're going to send us to Africa, they need to send us to Africa and not, not some 4-star hotel. And that was my opinion. With that said, you have any questions or?
No, the mistakes were made. It was an early trial. I think it was a grand gesture, and hopefully the organization itself will continue to grow and
Absolutely.
Be better in its execution as it goes on. Your product specifically right now, though, Eli, where are we at with all EBT?
Yeah. So enough about the hackathon. So basically, first iteration of the product is moving money from an EBT card to a Stripe virtual card. So that's where we started off, kind of like right into the hackathon. Going into the hackathon, we said, all right, we want to give the user the functionality once they have the money on their virtual card that they can do transactions on EOS, or how can we basically monitor the transactions between the merchant, the user, and the government. So right now, what we're focused on is just user growth. We're focused on first iteration user growth, signing up the 54 million people that are on food stamps onto the platform. And then just making sure that we have something that's actually scalable at a first level degree. So that's what we're up to right now. Q2, we have some pretty cool things that are going to happen. So we're working on a pilot with Instacart. So Instacart is this big platform that delivers food. They're in 30 markets across the US. They came to us and said, hey, we don't have any way to feed people that are on food stamps. Can we use your technology? And we're like, heck yeah. So we're working on a pilot program with Instacart. We're working on a pilot with another thing called feedingamerica.org. So they also want to do a buy 1 meal on Instacart. They gift 1 meal on feedingamerica.org. So we're working on that. And then in addition to us as a company, so we have a small team, Eli, Louis, Giancarlo, Tinkai, people in LA and Puerto Rico. We're in the middle of raising the seed round right now, and we're actually going to launch a WeFunder and close the pre-seed probably in the middle of next quarter.
Eli, yeah, if you want to start talking about if you're going towards the crowdfund, there's a platform that we haven't launched publicly yet. That is a crowdfunding portal that we've been working on over here at Ikigai. It's called Hanzo. that we believe is the best data-driven platform for doing so. I'll be letting the community know a little bit more about that over the next, couple months. But I think that your platform specifically would be fantastic for it. Why don't you come over here and talk to us? The platforms like WeFunder and Start Engine, they're great. Reg CF to me, which is what a lot of these things fall under. It was built during the Jobs Act, help people get in funding, equity funding from unaccredited investors, which, like many of you know out there, is one of the big promises of the ICOs, and the model to break VCs is something I'm very passionate about. But it really doesn't come without being able to reach people. Being able to reach people is a function of marketing engineering. And we have a number of great analytics tools that we've open sourced and that I think that we can help you with, Eli. So I'd love to show you that sometime along the way. Wanted to show off something else we've been working on over here. One of the companies, and I think both of you might be interested in this, both at Chesnut and at AllEBT. There's a card that I'm holding in my hand, and I'll hold this up a little bit for everyone to see. This card right here is a credit card computer. What's interesting about it is it has the EMV chip like all credit cards do. It has an e-ink screen, and it has a biometric fingerprint reader. So when I power this card up, let's see the power on. The screen goes and asks me to authenticate. I'm able to actually log in with success. Now this device works as an external hardware wallet for any device that I have. So it can function between your phone, your laptop, and function mostly as a secure enclave hardware external wallet. But it also has the ability to function as a password manager, so you can control other password management. Version 1 of this card will be simply for the crypto enthusiasts. Some of the people in our industry, I'll try to get some of these cards out so everyone can start using them. But it's great having the ability to make sure that you sign all transactions securely in all your devices with the same card, working very much like the new ledgers do with the external Bluetooth capability. Also does the FIDO training like the YubiKey. So any of the functions that the YubiKey does, this does as well. But version 2 of this card that we're working on right now will allow you to transfer tokens card to card without a network. So when we look at different functionality in different systems externally in the third world countries, as we're getting the pricing on this thing down, you can hold identification and assets of value on this card. But being able to have the system work with some of the security of the feature set that Chesnut is working on, or some of the to some of the users, being able to have proof of presence is what we call it, Eli, for being able to use this card to be able to unlock the EMV or to be able to unlock the access to the credit that external users might have. It's something that we're excited about over here. We try to LibertyBlock, and we're trying to help support engineers from teams that we feel are doing great things. And you both, we appreciate having you both on, and excited to hear where the status is of the projects. We're excited about all the projects on the ecosystem, in the ecosystem. So if you have a project that is interesting or you think we should know about, shoot us a message either here at LibertyBlock or at EOS Town Hall. Before we sign off, any final words there, Daniel?
I just want to say that if anybody wants to keep in the loop on what we're doing, you can join our Telegram group, Chesnut EOS. Also wanted to give a shout out. I totally forgot to do this. Phil Hamnet over at EOS42 has been really helpful to us and actually helped us in London. We were potentially going to walk away from this idea because we didn't think it was technically feasible, and he helped walk us back to doing it. So just shout out to him. And I know Chintai is launching their exchange either yesterday or today. So thanks to that, thanks to you guys, Kedar, thanks for your help on our project as well. And yeah, love the ecosystem. Excited to do this with you guys. So thanks for everything.
Sounds great. Eli, any final remarks?
You know, I think whatever we build, we need to build it for, you know, the 4 billion people around the planet, you know, the 54 million people on food stamps. So, you know, whatever projects you're working on or building, I always try to figure out, all right, how is the everyday user gonna use this? How is this gonna be valuable to them? Not, obviously, not trying to use technology to figure out a problem, but having a problem get solved by technology. Yeah. That's what I say.
That sounds like a great mission. And thank you all. Anyone out there listening to this message, you'll probably see a transcript below. Please hit the subscribe button. Find out what we're up to next week. We'll be back here, same time, same place. I'd appreciate you all tuning in to EOS Town Hall. Have a great week.